Sir, it's 1 past 4. Should we go ahead and at least start the webinar so that people can start joining in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we are live as well. Start.
Priya, should I go? Yeah.
We'll just wait for Ayan to join in. I'll message
Okay,
you.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another exciting initiative by MIT ID Innovation. On the behalf of the core team, the alumni, and the cohort of 2020-21, we are grateful to be safe and amongst you all hosting this session today. For those who are joining us for the first time today, we would like to share that MIT stands for an ever progressive, 4-decade young Maharashtra Institute of Technology. ID stands for MIT's 15-year young pioneering Institute of Design. MIT ID's latest contribution to strengthening the global innovation ecosystem is a flagship one-year innovation program with focus on four pillars of design, business, technology, and humanity. The key features and differentiators of this one-year course are a hands-on, highly customized, pro-practical, project-heavy based learning, deep emotions, and humanities. We tested our agility, adaptability, resilience as a team when we seamlessly delivered value-add experiences to our students, innovators, and the innovation ecosystem at large. We are humbly concluding season one with 52 industry interactions across the disruptive year. As promised, our open online courses focusing on innovation essentials have been launched this quarter. The duration of these certificate courses range from 1 month to 9 months, in addition to our full-time one-year campus-based course. Moving on to today's session, now we welcome our guest speakers and innovators. Mr. Kiran Sabnis, alumnus IDC IIT Bombay, with 20 plus years of experience in user experience design across industries and academia. He's a passionate design strategist, storyteller, collaborator, innovator, and mentor. Kiran has worked with multiple global corporate enterprise, example, Pfizer, IBM, Tech Mahindra, General Electric. He was instrumental in strategizing, developing, and institutionalizing UX practice across various organizations. At Pfizer, he was responsible for initiating, developing, maturing, and managing UX Center of Excellence, as well as he was a key pillar in starting innovation practice in India Center of Pfizer. Mr. Ayan Pal, Chief Creative Officer at Deloitte Digital USA. Ayan comes with 13 years of advertising and marketing background, having worked globally, leading and building creative teams on global brands for leading agencies. He's the first designer to be hired in Deloitte Digital India and one of the founders of the studios in India, starting with Mumbai. He has been with the firm for 7 plus years and has built a team from scratch to 800 plus people. He leads all the studios across the four locations in India: Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Gurugram. Brings his design background to build a culture of design first approach and make experience as one of the key drivers for solutions built and delivered across all capabilities. Mr. Ripul Kumar, with more than 20 years of experience executing more than 1,000 UX research, design, and innovation projects across the globe, co-founded and profitably ran a global design research, UX, and innovation consulting company for more than 11 years. Co-founded a SaaS technology company for creating and running large-scale online examination sold to more than 200 large clients, consulted with Fortune 500 companies like Microsoft, Nokia, Lufthansa, Google, Philips, Facebook, Sony, worked with innovation consulting companies like IDEO, UID, and Gravity Tank. Teaches UX and design thinking at leading design schools, business schools, and corporate. Created and curated India's largest online portal for designers. Mentor wide range of startups, healthcare services, disruptive markets, etc. Set up design team for high technology startup, owned user experience for the entire award-winning product range. Our esteemed panelist will be in conversation with Associate Professor Harshad Desai, Director at MIT ID Innovation, an industry professional who has spent a decade plus in the higher education domain. He's a faculty at MIT ID and is currently pursuing his PhD. He's deeply immersed in building India's foremost innovation education practice in collaboration with fellow industry leaders. This is our 51st industry interaction this season, and I, Arihant Jain, proud alumnus MIT ID Innovation, welcome you all once again to this thoughtfully curated innovation journey. Please do read the chat for other important pointers shared. Warm welcome once again, everyone. Over to you, Professor Desai.
Great. Thank you, Aryant, and thank you everybody for joining. And I'm such a privileged moderator here to have such a wonderful panel, because I think everything that's possible in the design and innovation industry, we have all put together, everything done in terms, be it products, service, studios, corporates, research, service design, and you name it, and collectively the panel would have spent some time in this. So thank you everybody for joining, and let's start this, because although the occasion is to really announce some of the very niche and unique UX courses that we have built and we have been building for past few months now. So you'll get to see why we are building these programs and what is the real essence of these online UX courses that you will see getting launched in next few months. But essentially this is just to kind of have that deep one-on-one conversation with people who have been there and who have seen these developments very, very closely. And the focus of today's discussion, I would rather keep on two major buckets. One is we would spend some time to understand this whole changing dynamic of education itself. Means how do we really look at higher education when it comes to design and related fields in today's time. We have seen design education maturing over a period of time in India, but now the dynamics are changing. The industry structure has changed. The expectation from designers and people related to this profession are changing. So it has some obvious implications on how design education should be structured. So, Ripul sir, first I would like to hear from you that how do you really see the future of education kind of evolving? Since we had some very interesting conversations in past few weeks, but how do you summarize that from your side?
Okay, I think thanks for inviting me first of all, and I have fairly strong viewpoints on education. I do teach, at MIT too. So I think let's go back instead of going in ahead. Let's go back a little bit, and let's go back 100 years. Design education, if we all know it, really started about 100 years back. Way back in Bauhaus, Ulm, and then other design schools came in, and they were there because people were moving from agrarian economy to industrial economy, right? Model T came in, Model T Ford came in, around that same time. Plus other industrial revolution things were happening. So education was there to support that. Okay, to ensure that people make products and people buy products, and that was the entire education all about. Right now, things have in the last 100 years, things have gone very, very far. Today we are not just talking about building products and buying products. We are talking about how do we experience things, right? That experiential nature of human beings has taken over. We are quite wealthy as in the world, wealth has grown. Right now we're talking about experiences, right? So we can always talk about disparity, but overall the wealth has grown. So we are talking about experiences that people have, right? But the education has still remained in the Bauhaus era. Every design school across the globe is still been in the Bauhaus era. Now, so that is point number one. Point number two is because of this change, uh, the way people want to learn has also completely changed. Right now, people are not talking about getting education in an educational institute which will offer them degrees. Degrees are starting to fade away. Google does not ask you to have degrees now. Okay, if you want to apply at Google, they don't want you to have degrees. It's fine, right? Microsoft is starting to go away. Let's say, okay, take away. There are no degrees required, right? Major corporation across the globe. Tesla has very clearly said, I don't want people with I'm like, it's okay if you don't have a degree, right? So degree as a concept is fading away slowly. Now, what is important is, have you learned? Have you practiced? Do you know this well? Can you actually solve these problems with us? And that is the entire changing face of employment. Employers don't want the people to be educated because they have, or don't want people who actually just have a degree. It doesn't mean anything to them today. Sorry, Archit, but that's exactly what the change is today, right? And that is what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay. Number three, from people's point of view, right? All of you come, almost everybody comes from a background where if you don't earn for a few years, it does not matter. There is somebody or other who will, provide you with things. That wasn't the case a few years back, right? So that means that you have a chance to do things the way you want to. You have a way that you will learn that the way you want to, right? And people are learning things that they want to and the time that they have. So it's not when the institute will offer a course, I will go and actually attend a course physically. I will, if I want to learn classical music, I will go ahead and learn classical music because that is what I want to do, while I learn mathematics at the same place, or while I learn, let us say, typography on another place, right? I want to be able to do that because I can afford to do it, and that's what I want to do. So we have completely broken down the traditional structures of education at this point of time. Now, with educational institutes in the traditional structure of a building, a degree course, which is a 4-year degree course or a 3-year degree course, which somebody has to be there, those are starting to break. And design education has to take lead from there. Say, what do we do in this changing structure?
Great. Thanks, Ripul. I think we are breaking many myths. We are breaking many assumptions as we break apart certain things. I answer, how do you see this, especially coming from an industry where you have built so many teams and you deal with people at across different levels, plus your engagement with some of the educational institutes as well. How do you see this dynamic shaping?
Yeah, so like Vipul just said that the origin of design schools and how all of this came about, we also need to understand our society because schooling and everything and education is a part of our society, and the long multiple centuries of British rule actually formed our education system, if you see, right? And it was an education system more of making clerks, right? Earlier it was more of Gurukul, where it was experiential learning, but they were able to break that whole education system because they wanted clerks. They would give orders and we as Indians would have to follow it. So while we break the education system, it is slightly also like it has to be a collaborative effort from um, the people who are looking for education, the parents who are giving their kids education, and it is not only a responsibility I feel on the institutes only. As in, like if I have and things have changed. It is not that earlier there were products and you went and you bought it. If you wanted something else, you just keep waiting, right? But now things have changed. You play an equal part in actually conceptualizing a product with the whole customer centric design. So now all of us have to move on with this whole piece of the demand that we have. So while the education, I would say the education houses would provide these different formats of new education, but it is equally important that we as students and parents also look at what we want and how we want it and work with the education system. So, and it is slightly tough for us because some of us have gone through the earlier education system that the British have put up, right? And since we know, we are trying to break it in a methodical way. So while it is a challenge, but it will be a very interesting phase to stay in because where we reach is like I don't think there are any limits to it. But then to be able to break it, and then because the good thing about our earlier education system is discipline, and I think discipline is very important in whatever you do. So to be able to break it but still have a certain discipline in this whole piece would be a great strength for us. So it's not going to happen in a year or 2 years, but then we shouldn't waste those years. We should use them rather than 1 year into so many years. It has to be different years that we get into this piece. The movement has started, is what I would say, and education system like when I went through it, it was at least 15, 20 years behind the market. But now, thankfully, education systems have opened up and are keeping a very close connect with the market and what is happening, and in turn trying to also formulate to see how they can be more impactful. So we'll get that, but this is a very interesting phase where we are actually tipping off and we are changing the whole thing.
Great, and thanks for kind of bringing that historical perspective. And as you rightly said, I think it's equally important to balance out things because any transition requires that kind of gradual shift supported by that disruption. Uh, Kiran sir, we have been talking about learning experience. So if you could kind of connect up these two thoughts
Yeah, actually, the
and
way
kind of tell
the
us how
way
those.
Ripple has come up with the kind of passion, and he was kind of making some earth-shaking statements. Could for young guys it could be a kind of a boss. When admission क्यों ले लिया? I'm spending 4.5 lakh rupees a year, and this guy is saying, don't do that. It's something. So guys, don't worry. Ripple is talking a lot of sense, and I respect his views. The point I would agree is gone are those days wherein you need to go in a building and learn first year, second year, or do some post graduation. I was having some conversation with one of my friends, and he said that the system would be make your own breakfast. Okay, so you should be looking out for what you want to have in breakfast. Okay, so it's not like they serve you something. So you need to pick up what you want to learn in life. Okay, and that's what is most important. Uh, for example, since we are talking about design and the program is entirely about design, gone are those days of doing BDES in product design, MDES in communication design. Okay, so it's like those are old days of thinking. How can we make more customized, more flexible, more modular, more extensible courses, And he gave a very nice example. I'm just consolidating what both of them said, that I would love to be learn music, then a bit of Python programming, then some bit of statistics, bit of user research, then typography, and then I like model making, and then I would love to make a film and some pottery. Why not? So how can we provide this kind of a thing? And again, experiential learning with all of you know Cole's model. So how can it be more experiential and without making without uh, make how can we make sure that we also take a responsibility of that entire process, and what Ayan said is very valid right from Baho's days and Ulm days, we were discussing about that. So how it can be a package wherein flexibility, modularity and choice is going to be a menu card driven programs. So it's good. I was attending one webinar by Ashoka University, and one of the speakers, he was saying, so nowadays, earlier it was entirely physical education. Guys will go into MIT or they'll go into NID or SRISTI or whatever, design school, and they will learn there. But now the entire learning has been broken into 4 spaces: physical, virtual, personal, and shared. Even there will be shared spaces. Okay, and how can we create those virtual water coolers wherein we can just exchange our thoughts? So the entire paraphernalia, entire ecosystem of education is going to get changed, and there we are currently standing. And I think it's a great time to be, and we need to rethink. I'll take one more minute and then we move ahead. Some of the students, they approach me saying that I want to do higher education in design. I want to go to Europe, or I want to go to this. But I think we need to be very clear about why do we want to do that? What is it that we want to learn from there? It's just going. Abhi to, those days have gone. कि मेरा बेटा यूरोप होके आया है. So nobody cares about that. What Ripple said. What is the value that you are bringing to the table, and what is it that business impact and user impact you can create? So it's a wonderful time, and thank you so much, Ian and Ripul, for opening that thought. I just did my job of consolidation. Thank you.
Yeah, Ripul sir, you want to add something?
No, I think I'll give it a go at this point. I'll probably add it.
Acha.
Yes.
ठीक है. No, because I think one of the most important things that has emerged, and means whether should we thank COVID or not, but it was a idea whose time was anyways due. This whole thing about online learning. Means earlier it was looked down upon as an inferior way compared to the traditional way of learning, right? And there are a lot of real issues about the quality, delivery, whether it's a credible way to learn. But I think in past few months, everybody has realized. I mean, it's something which both the institutes, students, and across the entire stakeholders, that it is not that bad in that sense. Means many things are in fact better if we are able to do things in a remote and an online way. And yeah, means there's still some work in progress, and we need to kind of make those tweaks to that model. But how do you see that online and remote learning, again, especially in context of things like we deal with? Means teaching something which is, say, more theoretical is comparatively easier to be uh, uh, done online. But if I had to teach design online, or teach something which is as hands-on and as practical as design, what has been your experience? Have you conducted something? Have you taught online? What has been the response in past few days? Yeah, Ripul sir, and anybody of you, is how do you see the impact of all things going online and remote? And I think it also helped us to kind of really blur those boundaries, because the work also has changed accordingly. Means if I really look at it, the future of work and future of learning is intertwined. So there has been some impact on how we work in this remote era, and similar implications on the learning. So I think it can be either ways. Means it's either future of work or future of learning, and the impact of online on that.
Can I start?
Yeah, please, sir.
Okay. See, I think I would call pandemic a blessing in disguise. Definitely not a blessing in that sense, but let's keep it like that. The traditional classroom has typically been a one-way street. Right now, there is this bald-looking professor who will come in and lecture something. People will do something, and and that something is learned. Right? Design school was slightly better off, because there would be a lot of assignments. Right? And we believed that we've done really well.
Yeah.
Actually, not. Okay. The, the pandemic has ensured that classroom has to be inverted. It is now upside down, because it is impossible to teach anything online. Every information that was supposed to be available is available online, so you cannot teach information. Right? Anything that somebody has to learn about knowledge, it's available online. Now, then what do you teach? You come to classroom and you realize that everybody has gone through something last night. They are better informed than you. They have better, in quotes, information than you. Right? You are a professor and you understand that everybody together is far better off together than you. Now, what do? You've spent 20 years something, and you realize that from an information point of view, everybody is better off. Okay, so you need to, at this point of time, invert the classroom. That's a very critical thing. And what do? Right? Now, people learn with a lot of, when you give them challenges, that is when people learn a lot more. Okay, so you need to bring, so instead of being a teacher, now you move out, you become a facilitator. You don't teach anything. You facilitate their learning, and by giving adequate challenges. Our whole reason of existence would become, what kind of challenges do we design such that people 20 somethings, or 17 somethings, or 18 somethings, can actually learn better off. It is not an assignment that you give them, right? It is what kind of challenge do you give them, so that each of them challenge everybody else, and together they have far more richer experience in that sphere than doing one assignment sometime. So we need the time to invert the classroom, really. And that's a good time, because pandemic has ensured that you can do it, right? Otherwise, there was no reason for us to change anything.
Rightly said, very rightly said. Means we all discovered so many things because we didn't really have an option. Means we had to do that, and we had to do it in the best possible way, and in that deal, and everybody learned in that sense. Yes, I answer. What has been your experience of remote working and remote learning, if I may just put it in that
So
way?
if I talk about the pandemic, I just drove from Hubli to Bangalore today morning, and I experienced the FASTag at every toll booth. And for the first time, I was excited to see every toll booth, because I didn't have to pay any cash. That was amazing. You just drive through and you get through, and it gets deducted. So that was a moment of pleasure, and it wouldn't have been possible. And even in some remote place from Hubli, we got out. It was 100 kilometers. We stopped to fuel up the car. They are taking Google Pay, right? So I think the pandemic has actually accelerated a lot of the way we operate. I'm not saying digital, right? But a lot of ways it has challenged it, and it's also changed it. I'm not saying all of it is good, right? Because most of the barriers are in the mind rather than anything else. And it is when you give in a choice, you would always go back to what you're comfortable with. That's human beings, right? Because the brain's basic job is to keep you alive and keep you comfortable, right? And you are giving the brain the option. Here was a point where the brain was not given an option, right? And look at how we've accelerated so many things and jumped so many years, I would say, in terms of that. In terms of work, like, because Ripul sir has already totally covered the whole education piece, and it's a very interesting concept. And I think teachers, as teachers, will have to have more guts, and we have to be much more open, and we have to learn as teachers to be able to teach in the new way. So we learn more than we'll teach, I guess. because we'll have to give up control, because earlier it was more about control, and it is like a class looking at a teacher. Now the teacher is outside the circle, and trying to, like Vipul sir said, facilitate. In terms of work, again, we would crib, and we are from a space where we would love to go out and have our tea and waste some time. And as designers, that is where we flourish, I guess, where we invest time in doing useless things, but that's where our brain works, I feel. But this whole pandemic has actually given us a way to work and be able to collaborate much better, because I can talk from a work point of view. When this thing broke up, and like if we talk about our team, we've got a 1,000-member team across 4 cities, and we are running some 35 to 40 projects simultaneously. And to be very frank, we did not drop a single ball. That means this is possible, right? I
Yeah.
feel with more human touch, while we've tried this mode, which we've been forced into, the fun will be when we meet again, and I think that will be the new norm, and we are going to take it to our next level, because we've been restricted totally to a space, and then we'll be given freedom again. Like Rupul sir said, there'll be freedom where it is how do you use the combination of it to the best, right? Earlier we only operated in a certain way where remote working was a choice. Now we've seen only remote working is the choice, and meeting is not, like a smaller choice. So I'm really looking forward to it, and it's opened up so many of our ways of working, and it's also made us realize, if I could talk personally, how much time we waste at work. Because if you see constructive work, and if you open your iPhone, it gives you a reading of how much time you spent on whatever, right? So that also gives you some time to reflect, because I don't think we should complain anymore that we do not have time for ourselves. We have enough time for ourselves, and this pandemic has proved it. So how you spend it is most important, and that is what our maturity will be now challenged once this thing opens up, and then we have a choice. Then the choice is, do we get back to our comfort, or do we say that no, since we've taken this step and this works fine, what is the combination that we are going to use?
Fantastic answer. I think there can't be a nicer way to kind of summarize 8 months of pandemic and remote work in a very, very positive way. I think that has a lot of interesting lessons for everybody here, and thanks for putting that in that particular way. Kiran sir, how do you connect these two
Yeah,
worlds?
yeah. I'm just thinking about what Ripul has said. So Ayan rightly put from say business and work perspective while giving right examples. So I agree with what Ripul said. Basically the role of a facilitator teacher is changing. Role of a student is also changing. Okay, and the entire ecosystem is on the verge of changing. I remember I conducted first online remote session on 19th of April. Okay. And I was under tremendous stress that time because the number of students were around, I suppose, 20. Nobody knew each others. I didn't know any one of them. So it's like मेले में खो जाने के बाद सब आते हैं ना. So it's like everybody was unknown to each one, and that was tremendous time for me, because it's like because of my age I can always influence people, कि boss, I'm the smartest guy in the world as far as 20 people are concerned. But gone are those days. People are really knowing so many things. They observe, they read a lot. And I was talking with someone, so it's like truly multidisciplinary learning. They just don't learn from teachers, they learn from podcasts, they learn from YouTube, they learn from their friends, they learn from their parents, and so on and so forth. So it has become a very challenging stuff for a mentor, a facilitator, but it's a challenging time because you have got an opportunity to work on new pedagogies. How can you come up with innovative ways of teaching? So can that be augmented model? Can something be combined with 2 cameras, 3 cameras. It's a tactical operational aspect, but how can we make that engaging, that learning more enjoyable, more engaging, more meaningful? And again, just to support what Ripul said, that those, like, how can you make those assignments stroke challenges more rewarding? And I came up with a very nice article saying the entire learning experience has become socio-emotional experience. How can you celebrate birthday of your student online without making sure that she is like overwhelmed, so these are the wonderful challenges all the teachers or facilitators are having. Number one. Number two, when we started mentoring the students in the month of April, the parents were hiding from that side, and they were also kind of watching from this side, that side, and it's out of curiosity. Obviously, we respect that. But even then, we started saying, okay, you can come, join. It's not necessary to peep in because they are also curious to know. So the entire consumption basket or the consumers, beneficiaries, user, that entire user paraphernalia has got entire. उनकी नानी भी interested है, उनके uncle भी interested है, because it's happening at home. Okay, so their dog also comes in between, and that entire experience is completely different. But I look at it as a great opportunity. I see one more challenge is how can we measure the performance of the students? Are they really learning or not? Many a times they switch off the camera for obvious reason. One could be very boring guy. Teacher is very boring. That could be a very legitimate reason. Second reason could be low bandwidth, which also could be possible reason. And third is enough of screen time. कि मेरे दोस्त के साथ chat करना है. So there are on various levels. So it's very difficult for us to get the feedback whether they have learned or not, because they can see your face, but you don't have eye to eye contact. That's a wonderful thing. You're talking with the camera, assuming that I'm talking with Ripul, but Ripul is not there. I'm just imagining Ripul is there. It's a virtual Ripul. So how can I measure the performance? And I can give some activities they can submit online, and I can just see their things. But that's what we need to crack somewhere, like how the true feedback, true level at which, or the depth at which the understanding of the students have gone in. But it's an amazing time. Means I think we all are in such an era that every day you need to come up with something new. So that's very exciting time for me.
And I want to add something to what Kiran sir said very interestingly. Is like the number of students have grown. You might have one student, but you're actually teaching a part of the family also, right? So that also actually is growing a lot of the socialization of what we or what the teacher is teaching. Not to make anybody conscious about it, but when you hear something, it stays with you at times, most of the time. And if there's something which is interesting, a lot of people, like when my daughter has a story telling class, I always hang around to listen to how well these kids say a story so simply, right? We have to learn things to be simple, but so there might be people sitting around and like without eye contact, without knowing, you're actually teaching so many other people also who are not even related to the whole subject. So that's I think is really interesting and amazing.
Can I take 1 minute?
Yes, sir. Please,
Okay.
go ahead.
So there are very interesting models that are emerging. So some of the models, and they're similar. So I'm sure there are more models that are emerging, but some very interesting models are there. So one model is is this Amsterdam-based school called Institute of Creative Leadership. Now they have leadership programs or creative leadership programs for people who have spent Jurassic years in their work, right? And they're taking their leadership to the to I don't know how many levels up. Now what do? Really, they bring people from across the globe who are born leaders, or not born leaders, but who are leaders in their known field, and they put them into a challenge which is a real challenge for that city. They do something for the city, and it's a massive challenge, and they spend a few months to actually go through the challenge, while at each point of time there are people who are helping them, right? So that is the challenge, and people come out deeply nourished and enriched with that experience and with that learning. Now, not learning in a classroom, sitting in a classroom with somebody teaching them, but by going through a massive challenge. Everybody's gray cells and hands, all of it is deeply challenged. Model 1. Model 2 is, if you probably know the school called Astronova School. Astronova School was started by Elon Musk. Small school, physical in nature right now, but very few people. Okay, very few children. It's expensive. Okay, we have to figure out how do you make it less expensive, and they figured that out. But coming to the Astronova School, again, children, no traditional classrooms. Again, massive global challenges. How do you send people to Mars?
Mars.
Right, and these are 10-year-old kids. They're trying to solve world problems together with experts coming in together, helping them do that. Now, in that whole thing, they're learning how to do it. So we need to give it to children, or people said, okay, you can probably solve these issues. If 10-year-olds are solving this, then 17, 18, 20-year-olds can absolutely solve it. Right? So they've come out with an online version of it. It's called Synthesis School, which is exactly doing same thing once a week for children. Children come of approximately between 9 and 14 and solve these problems together. Very massive challenges, but interesting, right? We need to think not teaching. We need to think simulations. We need to think stimulations. We need to think challenges, and that's something that I think the classroom needs to flip.
Fantastic. No, I think we while we develop our own model, Kiran sir, of how to kind of really bring this whole online education to design side of things. There's some interesting models also which we can always track and see how do we kind of collaborate and learn from them. And this is so exciting that Nachiket sir can't stop himself from sharing his thoughts and his experience. So he has joined us with some interesting thoughts that he would like to share.
Nachiket. 2 minutes, huh?
Yeah.
When you speak, I'll become a moderator.
Yes,
Sorry, I'm just kidding. Go
you
ahead.
mention that? No, good you mention that. So I could not resist, as Harshit rightly said. I was listening to all your discussions, and I'm reflecting for what happened last 7-8 months in everything. So teaching is just one part. So I just wanted to share two very interesting user experiences. So one user experience is my own students, and one of my classmates who triggered that. So he said that just a couple of days back, Pradeep Joseph, who is in 24/7, he said that how do you teach these days? How do you teach design specific courses like, say, form study? So very interesting thing came up when I was teaching form study for the first time. I was also very jittery in terms of how do I convey things completely online, and how do people perceive to talk about surfaces when we have been taught to touch and feel and take the experience yourself, how the form flows and all. So the simple exercises of creating a form out of 3 geometric shapes, students, believe me, used watermelon shells, wheat dough, Maggie plus Fevikwik, pot clay, green foam which we use in these bouquets, then Siporex blocks and bricks. So whatever they could get hand on. So that also reiterated the fact that necessity is the mother of invention. So these kids, for the first time when they were exploring form, they had to explore this way, and I'm sure that will remain for their lifetime in understanding how their understanding evolved in form. That was one experience. I was part of one online lecture or a module. This is also very interesting. IDC had put up a post for doing user centricity as a topic, and the speaker was Sanjeev Kapoor, the famous chef. So IDC had asked him, and this course was run by IIM Ahmedabad and IDC. So there were around 600 students 600 people who you could see on the screen, and Sanjeev Kapoor talking about how user centricity led him to create uh, various products, typical kitchenwares and the kadais and the kettles and stuff like that. But the interesting thing was that somebody mentioned a minute back that these 600 people were not 600 numbers. They were 600 into at least 4 or 5. So Dadi was there, sitting there, Mummy was sitting there, understanding what Sanjeev Kapoor, because everybody was enamored with Sanjeev Kapoor as a person. And he talking about design, Aniruddha mentioning the nuances of design. It was really a awareness campaign kind of thing for people across the spectrum. So right from the MBA students are always there, their parents, design students and their parents. So this, I don't think would have been possible without we being in the pandemic situation and connecting between me sitting in Pune, nothing to do with IDC now, but I could attend a lecture conducted by IDC and I am Ahmedabad, and learning from that, and getting that feel of the user of all these 600 people, as well as the students who are wanting to learn. So I think these are very interesting times and very interesting experiences all of us have had. So yeah, just to add my bit to the discussion.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you. This just proves the fact that if there is a will, there is more and more ways which are coming up. So as long as there is a desire to learn, I'm sure everybody will find newer ways to learn and upskill themselves.
I think it's the other way. When there is no other way, there comes a will to learn in a new way.
There comes
Yes.
True. That's also true. Cool, sir. So just going more specific, because that's the kind of purpose that we set out. That while we talk about education as a whole, one is design and the traditional way of learning design. But when we talk about the whole domain or this whole world of UX, means for lack of any other word, I'm just using a very generic word called UX, and I think that itself requires a long and deep discussion as to what essentially is the essence of UX in today's time. Means right now it has become such a multidisciplinary field with so many overlaps. Means everybody has a different understanding when we use the word UX, and depending on where I am seeing it from, people have different interpretations, both from a learning side and both in the industry as well. So if you can just take few minutes and just elaborate on what according to you is the essence of UX, or what is the gist, or maybe how do you define UX for yourself through your own experience. Ayan sir, would you like to start?
Sure, I'll start. So I would actually give it to the consultants, because consultants have two work. One is either most of the time they confuse, right, and they have this amazing knack of calling different things by different names in different places at different times, right? So if I say user experience, like for me it's more of a capability in our whole business, and it's a role, but then it's a way more huger piece, and it is only to define that like we have a UX team, we have a visual design team, but then technically a lot of places call it UI, right? But it's a space which is a amalgamation of, I would say, design and engineering, and I think those lines have blurred, thankfully. Gone are those days where you could not make an engineer sit with a designer without sharp objects around, and both of them survive. So user experience is now table stakes, right? And our audience, if I could call them so, have become way more educated than what we were earlier, right? And like Ripul sir said, that we are much more richer in terms of our exposure, the type of things that we've seen. So everybody might not be a designer, might not be able to design, but they can recognize good design from bad design. So it's way more demanding. So gone are the days where you pull back in a price sensitive market, you say that I will skip user experience, right? that's not a conversation anymore, right? Because that is what's going to make a difference most of the time than not. And if we get down to numbers, like simple thing like one extra click is like 10% of your customer. 10% is a huge number, right? So there are also conversations happening where you can actually directly connect ROI to the type of dollars that you're spending behind user experience. And user experience is no more just a designer's job now, right? It flows through. Earlier there were systems, and then there was an interface which was designed to face or interact with the user. Now designs go through the engineering, go through the system, right? Where it is like engineering and design conversations start together, so that engineers and designers can design systems together, rather than uh, we were told saying that kuch color or line and kuch font laga do and make it look beautiful. And in advertising they use this word classy, right? Kuch classy or chic bana do, and something that is jazzy, right? Gone are those days, thankfully, right? And in like earlier, designer's life was like a designer's born, then he is told ki logo ko thoda bada kar do, and then he dies. That life has changed, we have much more control in our hands, and we are working with engineering shoulder to shoulder, or any other capability that you see, and we are delivering user experience as one team rather than just a design team. So it is table stakes. There is no way that you can actually compromise with user experience, and it has become a very big part of business, because nobody cares if it is SAP at the back or Hybris at the back or it is Salesforce at the back. I come to a system to do a job simply. I should be able to do that job. And what enables me to do that job well in time and simply is the user experience. So that's what I would say. Like, I think it's a very good time for designers. Thankfully, I'm alive at this time to see it. But there were times when I thought that my day will come, right? And and this is the time when we are collaborating very well, and we are making huge difference and impact to business and dollars amazingly. So that's what I would say about user experience.
Cool. Now that clearly says that why you have titles like business experience designer, right? Means you hire that as a position. So good that that realization is across the board. Ripul sir, you have a ring side view and an inside view, all sides of views, I think.
Yeah,
how has
I've been a
been your
consultant,
journey with UX?
unfortunately, I've put my nose on the grindstone and a virtual high five. Okay, I put my nose on the grindstone and nose is completely flattened. All of it is in place. Okay, but I'll start with the basics, and everybody like a professor hat on my head. User experience is about the user, because it's the user's experience, not yours, not mine. Okay, not the businesses. Okay, not anybody else. Somebody who uses the service, uses the product or abuses the product, right? And that is what is the experience that we're talking about all the time. Okay, that person is not in the center. They have all the viewpoints of the entire system. They're everywhere. And we can't design any experience for them, actually. It's very interesting. We actually can never design any experience for them. Their experience is in their head. Okay, which is unique. Each one's experience is very unique to where they come from. Okay, we can't design anything for them as such. As an experience, we can't design anything. Okay, so what is that experience? Experience is in their head. What we can do is like a, how do I put it? Like a Mali, right? Like a gardener. What we can do is ensure that the environment in which these products and services are, we can only make the environment better. There are no weeds, or very few weeds. We both the seeds at the right time. We give the right amount of water. We ensure the rest of the things, so that we know that at a point of time, the flowers will come out approximately right and they will bloom. That is our job. Our job is not like a carpenter. Every little detail that you look at it. Our job is like a like a gardener. and not a carpenter. The minute we understand our job is not like a carpenter, our job is like a like a mali or like a gardener. That is when you start seeing the entire ecosystem changing, right? So coming back to UX, as a this thing. See, what we need to do is to enable people to help think from users' point of view. If people don't even know who their users are, they haven't gone out from their beautiful air conditioned offices with nice new Macintoshes, they can't design anything. People say, no, what is the first thing that you tell people? Said, okay, move your ass out from the room, go out, sit with people who are going to use your systems or going to use what you're going to design, understand their lives. If you cannot do it, you cannot design anything. Design cannot be in your veins because you can't do it, right? So you need to do that. Every designer of any salt, worth any salt, must go there and do this. Otherwise, you're not a designer or you're not a UX guy at all, right? I come from research, but this is something that I tell every designer. You need to be understanding people deep down. Sitting in offices, you can't do it. Calling people, no, you can, but no. So that is your essence. If you are able to do that, then you can do quite a lot more things. Part number 2, just 1 more minute. Part number 2 is you need to understand world very, very differently from where you understand. You need to understand money. If you cannot understand how money moves, you cannot understand how motivations of people move, right? If you don't understand how business moves, you cannot understand anything. Read business papers, do those. Children, there are a lot of children out there. Read business papers, you will understand the world better. Okay, read fiction if you have to. Read science fiction because that is what the future is about. Okay, because that is, people see future from there. Everybody sees future from science fiction, right? Read that because those are the kind of people who will design for. This is how world will change. People like science fiction writers see how worlds are different from how they write. Okay, and you see those worlds. You are the one who going to make a change in the world. See that up front. If you can write a bit of science fiction, probably you can see the world. Because once you change something, the world changes. And because the world changes, something else changes. So, there are many, many changes that are going to happen. But can you see those changes? Can you see those second order effects? So yes, understand people, read business, read science fiction, and that is what will help you make a better user experience designer.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you for again bringing very interesting connections with design fiction and business. These are very, very interesting topics that somehow we have also woven in the program. So I think that's a very interesting validation coming from your side as well. Kiran sir, how?
Yeah, I told you, we don't want to make this goody thing. I would like to disagree with Ripul. Okay, so I keep telling my students that don't go out. Okay, so go inside. So there are two ways of looking the things. When I was in design school, okay, so the guy, my professor Mohan Bhandari used to tell me, that Kiran, don't go out, go in. Okay. So there is another thing, we always think, I don't disagree with what he said, that go and meet the cobbler, sit with him, eat dabba from him, see on what bicycle he comes, take selfie with him, chat with him. That's all fine. But also talk with yourself. Do meditate. There are a lot of things inside you. We have got habit since from our childhood, to find the solutions outside. कुछ नहीं इंस्टा पे जाओ, कुछ नहीं गूगल पे जाओ, कुछ नहीं यहाँ पे जाओ, go search on Behance. So it would be something, that we need to balance outside in approach and inside out approach. Look out for the things, what we all call, and I'm sure Ripul would agree with me, called as reflective practitioners. So we need to reflect inside. We need to kind of a introspect what is happening inside me. There's a reflection in action and reflection on action. So I think like for any user experience designer, we need to go out, find, but also think within, see what is happening inside you. Second point is user experience is not at all a new term. People connect UX means getting job into IT. It's completely wrong thing. Product design is user experience, communication design is user experience, toy design, why not? So it's like, something people are associating. Getting into UX means doing job in IT. And what Ripul said and Ayan said is about user centricity, keeping user at the core of your thought process. So if you see UX as a, if you ask anyone, the product designers become UX designers, transportation designers become UX designers, uh, and they completely change their passion. Somebody says that I am so good, I love making cars, and kahan pe job kar raha hu? Infosys. Okay, wow, wonderful, So nothing against Infosys, but this is what, so people are just going to UX because they get a job over there. I think that needs to be totally broken. I'm not against any IT. I have worked in IT for last 20 years. I know. But this is something, that we need to think, go deep inside, find out the real solutions, those are lying within you, validate with external world. Go back to cobbler and say कि hey काका चाचा ये मैंने आपके लिए किया है बराबर है क्या आप यूज करोगे क्या आपकी पत्नी यूज करोगी क्या will you bring tiffin in this so on and so forth. But this is something, it should be a amalgamation of both sides of the world. But otherwise I completely buy what both the panel members are talking about.
Thank you. I think this is very important, and thank you, sir, you brought this up, because from where I see this is that yes, user experience is important. Everybody is understanding that how valuable it is at all levels, means right from the user research to actually delivering those digital solutions. But somewhere what is generally presented out there and what is taught also is also a very narrow slice of it. So I think the whole effort that we are all putting together is to really have that holistic view of the education also. Means the industry, I understand that it is all ready to accept people who come with these different experiences and with different capabilities, but somehow we have just narrowly fitted them into just one slice that okay, if you do this, then only this qualifies as UX. But I think if we start doing that and kind of seeding this thought to both the design learners and the aspirants, I think that would eventually help everybody realize their potential also further. Yes, I answer.
Yeah, so Kiran sir brought out a very interesting point of getting a job. So when we are talking about design, another name for designers, I think, is passion. I feel passion is what makes a designer, and that doesn't make a designer. So if we are only job focused and there is no passion, and you're trying to fill up a position, that doesn't work. And it might start off, you might land up with a job, but you will not be great at it. So we have to be very careful about how we pick it and what we pick and what we make out of it. So let's not uh, do something because it fits well in the current system of getting a job, right? Because design is a choice that we got. So you have to understand that, and when you make a choice, you make a choice out of some passion, and design cannot happen. I feel design cannot happen without passion, and that is a very personal view of mine, if you can
Brilliant.
totally not agree to it. Design cannot happen without passion. So don't, I would say, don't tweak or don't cheat your passion with yourself. Like you
Wow.
said, go inside, right? Go inside yourself, reflect, but don't give in saying that I'm doing automotive design, but then as soon as you get a job, I am a digital designer, right? So try and think more before you give in to something, because it's very easy to give in, right? And the right path will always have obstacles, and it will be a tough path. But after 20 years working, I can pretty much say that there are some things that you don't give up on, and later those things don't give up on you. So you have to be passionate, and you have to commit to something. Don't take the easy path, don't take the insta way, is what I would say. Grind it out, and it'll stay with you. And like in 3 Idiots, they said that look for excellence. Success is something which is very relative, and I'm not even going there. So look at, so that you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, how can you expect somebody else to enjoy it? Or how can you expect somebody it to be useful to somebody else? So think of it that way rather than anything else.
Great, great.
Very nice. I really appreciate and the way you put it. Amazing. Very good. Very good.
Thanks. I'm so glad that we are getting this forum to discuss so many things. Means I think although the again the context was of higher education and UX related courses, but just that little title has given us so many interesting and really relevant things that really have come up. So thank you for that. Sir, if you all agree, we can just extend this by 5 more minutes and take some questions, because some of them have posted there, and although we covered some of them in our discussion, but Archana Bhange, she wants to know that uh, how do kind of engineering students should be kind of convince the value of design, because in a way design is part of engineering, and engineering is connected to design in some or the other way. But when it comes to so she's a engineering faculty, and probably that's the challenge which she might be facing in terms of how do you convince engineering students that design is kind of integrated into engineering in a way, in design. Kiran sir, would you want to comment?
Yeah, I can try. I think one of the ways, who asked this question? Sorry.
Archana Bhange.
Okay, so one of the ways, Archana, you may address this is design is karke dekho. Okay, so unless you try hands out, hands on, they can't get convinced. Like, for example, any project, I don't know whether you are teaching to mechanical engineers or electronic engineers or computer engineers, but if they are doing any of the projects of their final year project or any of the Baha and this kind of a competitions, their approach predominantly will be technology problem solving or technical problem solving. The moment you ask the questions like what Ripul was talking about, is who is going to use this product, how he is going to use, what is the context of use, will he suit his day-to-day life cycle, so on. And the moment you start putting those questions, assuming that user is in front of you, automatically the answers would keep coming that, hey, it has not been designed for the benefits or the centricity of the users, but those have been designed for technology excellence, technical problem solving, which is correct. But if you also do from the user viewpoint, the acceptance of the users would be more and they will start using. To any coin, there are two sides. One is called as Abhikalpiya side and second is Abhiyantriki side. Abhikalpiya side is design side and Abhiyantriki side is a technical side. So unless those Abhikalpiki and Abhiyantriki side meet each others, it won't be a complete product. There is another dimension which we need to give, but I don't know whether engineering students are much aware, which is called as business side. But currently, if we talk about the user centricity and give them the example of their existing product or the project, finally a project they are doing, I think they might understand the value. Secondly, conducting small workshops. Since you are a teacher, and I'm sure you would be having a lot of good ideas how to teach design, maybe you can give some kind of activities. One of the activities which we try is imagine that you get up early in the morning. What 10 things you touch? Okay, and those 10 things could be a chadar, a bed, brush, toothpaste, mirror, falana, mobile, specs, teacup. And how do you think those things would have been designed? What would be the thought process? Yes, to make a cup, you need to understand the manufacturing, material, blah, blah, blah. But also you need to understand what is the size of the finger, how the grip would be, what should be the porcelain diameter, how my lip structure is there, and how the cup contour is there. The moment you start giving those day-to-day life examples, the acceptance would be more. So I think one is their technical side project which they can work on, and secondly maybe day-to-day things. But I started, design is about karke dekho. You need to experience that. You need to test the blood. Otherwise, only giving some Coursera courses and all these things, it won't work. But I would like other people to talk about it. Yeah. Go ahead.
So yes, perfect. I believe that unless there is a motivation for somebody to look at it, they will not even look at it. What is the motivation? A lot of children in India go to school because there is food available, right? And that is the motivation. And then education also happens because there is food available. What is the motivation for people to come to design? Right, and that is something that you will have. And do we have artificial barriers that are out there? Absolutely. I know that engineering students can't come and audit design classes, correct? Can they do it? They can't. If they can't, then obviously there are already barriers out there. But what is the motivation? So one is removing the barriers. Number two is, what are the motivations that are out there? Can you look at hackathons that are together? Right, very quick. This is something that can immediately bring design students to engineering students to design. Simple hackathons together, right? Do those, and you will see how many people get attracted to each other, to work with each other, and bring out stuff. And then that is when can you have design courses that are actually put up in the engineering college? Say, okay, this is a course that is available for everybody to do. Have the right timing and all that. And is it possible? So some of those things have to be there, and remove the barriers, get some motivations in place, and that is when you'll see there's a lot of cross pollination happening.
Yeah, great points. I also feel that the other angle is that there's a lot of, like, if you have two people and both people have big egos, they don't talk to each other because their egos come in the way. So if you turn design from a skill to a verb, suddenly you'll see the use of it. So if you go to the dictionary and you see what is the meaning of design, design is basically solving problems. Whether a designer is solving a problem or an engineer is solving a problem, they are solving it in their own way, right? So I think there is a certain amount of, I would say, attitude that's around design and designers, and there's a certain amount of attitude or ego that grows around an engineer, that I'm an engineer and you're a designer, and both of them think that both of them are useless technically, right? But then, like Kiran said, both of them together working, basically saying that none of you would be relevant without each other. So if you see, if I could take the example of an app, while the UX and visual design designs it, the engineer develops it, right? So if there's no engineer, it doesn't see the light of the day, and if there's no designer, there's nothing that the engineers can put out, right? So if you can take them through some of these live experiences of how it happens, and more put design out there. Rather, design has always been something which is done in one corner quietly, and that has to be let out. And design is more about, if I could take the example, like say Volkswagen was launching this car, and a lot of researchers came and said that this car will not work. So their campaign was that this car, saying that researchers have dumped this car, and they put out it in the marketplaces, putting this car, saying the researchers have dumped it car. That was actually the Golf, right, which turned the whole fate of Volkswagen. Before that, they were about to shut down. So people actually reflected on it and liked the car, and they had put it out in everybody's domain. So I think we need to put design out there and not make it something which is to be taken away in one corner and done and delivered, so that everybody has access to it, and those egos need to drop, those attitudes, I would say bad attitude. Good attitude is very good, because I don't think anything is good enough without any attitude. But those bad attitudes and those baggages that have grown around design needs to come down. And I think anybody sensible will see that it is useful enough.
Fantastic. Very, very nicely put. And I think there is enough action points for Archana ma'am to kind of go back and talk to her students. In case you need any help, ma'am, we are there to guide and help you at all levels possible. So do reach out to us on anything that you need. We'll end with this one last question, and very appropriate question. What are the future trends? Means everybody wants to know कि आगे क्या होने वाला है. Means we still don't know what is going to happen in 2020, but 2021 में what to expect from UI UX trends is the question. The participant is anonymous, but I'm sure this will benefit everybody else. And with this question, we will end the session today. Yes, sir. Future gazing, what's going to happen? Ayan sir, kahan tak dikh raha hai? Till where can you see?
I think there will be a very beautiful play between numbers and design, right? Because we are going to get smarter with the dollars and the money that we spend behind design, one way. The other way, the design is going to give back in terms of dollars, and we are finding ways of doing that, because you only have, like in a business, like Ripul said, that you have to understand business. Business is all about how money flows and how you make money and what brings more money, right? So you only have a seat at that table when you can promise some money for some money that is getting invested. So it is not a thing of the future. It just that we are just sharpening up those pieces where we are more confident about the impact of design, and we will have louder voices, and we will have equal voices, is what I would say. Use it well. Don't use it like it was used on us, is what I would say, us as designers. Use it well, and we'll go a long way. And it's really, really interesting times where there were times when it said that design is not going to change the world. I would defer to that, and I wouldn't totally agree. Design is going to make a huge difference in this world, and it's already started. So I don't have to pick examples for the same.
Yes, Ripul sir.
Nothing major to say, because the world is changing, and I think politically, economically, financially, everywhere there are changes. And if you put it all of them together, like a futurist would actually do, you will see that human beings are changing towards being a little afraid of each other, and yet want to meet each other. Okay. uh, and then this uncertain world post pandemic, right? Next year is going to be almost at the end of pandemic, post pandemic. If I think, we would still be fairly uncertain of human beings. Okay, which is, I think, quite a interesting time in next year, if it is asked for it. How do you work in this, little afraid, and yet I want to go and hug my friends? How do you see this world, right? And then a lot would continue, because this is the first pandemic that you would see now. Okay, you don't know what is in store. Okay, and I'm not naysaying or anything. I'm saying you don't know what is in store, but we've learned a lot. We've learned to make a vaccine in less than a year. First time in the history. The vaccine history is like crazy. So we would learn to do a lot more faster. And is that good, is that bad, we will learn next year. So it's just those human emotions that we will have to work.
I think, yeah. Yeah, sir, Kiran sir, please.
Yeah, if we go on doing the same way that we are doing, we don't have any future. If we want to
Wow.
become a wireframing jockeys and working on Axure and Figma and whatever, we don't have any future. So 2021, if you are, and if I measure the thing, you would be doomed. If you just do something similar what you guys currently are doing. We guys, not you guys, we guys are currently doing. So if we focus on tools, this 2020 could be end of your career. Okay, 2021, the new things are going to come and the expectations are going to be very high. Secondly, generative experiences, data-based, analytics, and all these things are going to come in a very big way. Designers can't be only right brain thinkers. Designers need to sharpen their strategies in analytical minds as well. They need to learn very fast various new tools. We can't say that ye to mera job hai, I don't care who builds this and that technology team, let them take care of it. No, it is not going to be there. We need to rapidly learn many things. One thing what Ripul said in the beginning is, guys, we need to understand business pretty well. If we don't understand, we'll be just following the orders of product owners and product managers, saying that, guys, hey, you look handsome, why don't you beautify 2 screens? We don't want to live like that. This is the most shameful thing. It will happen for designers. So if we understand the policy, if we try to peep inside the strategy, and these are not big words, guys. If we really put our efforts, understand technology, and I'm not saying become technologists, we are not geared up for being, means I can't be a technology architect for some XYZ big company. I can't be because my life hasn't gone in. I don't enjoy that. But try to be more kind of encompassing to other things, be open for other things. Gone are the days of becoming a hero. The ye jo hai na, some John Trivia is a hero designer. Gone are those days. Now you need to work in a society. There would be thousands of stakeholders for you, and it's a very challenging time. We need to open up, though we'll keep the core focus same. We'll be focusing on user research, user centricity, humanities, psychology, but peripheral aspects we need to understand. Fintech, we need to understand edutech, we need to understand some domains of your own choice. We can't be an expert of all domains, okay? But if you really love education, how can you become a good user experience designer in education technology space? If you like finance, can you do that? If you like some xyz, and Ripple would know that. Earlier, I'll take 1 second, 1 minute. There was a guy in NID, and Ripul, I'm sure, would have interacted with him, called MP Ranjan. So MP Ranjan once had said, do something which will remain with you for entire life. एक project करना है ना, तो do the project for 10 years. If you want to design, that time, post office was the kind of entity there. He said कि post office के लिए 10 साल काम करो, उसके बाद you will understand what is post office. So UX guys need to decide what is the focus. It does not mean that you don't work on other things, but if we don't understand the domain well, then we'll be very superficial designers. So we need to go deep inside the domains, understand technology, be open for business ideas, business landscapes, so on and so forth. It's very easy for me to give gyan, but we all need to do that. And secondly, one of the good resources is a Gartner hype cycle. If somebody is interested, it may not be perfect one, but keep watching out for that. What is Gartner hype cycle talking about? Where is the technology curve and all these things? There are so many resources on which you can get this information about what is going to happen in 2021. All the analytics models have dramatically failed in 2020 because they had never imagined that Corona would come. All of them were extrapolating कि इसने ये खरीदा तो अप्रैल में ये खरीदेगा, ये खरीदो तो जून में वो खरीदेगा, कोई खरीदा नहीं, because the complete disaster happened. So we need to be very agile, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to learn, and that's what, you know, I think Harshit would be talking about the new program, that user experience stuff MIT is starting.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. From my side, I'm taking a pause. If anyone wants to share, please go ahead.
Thank you. And I think this is a very interesting question. I can be pretty sure because there are two very interesting taglines that I have come to believe. One is that I mean, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Means that's something which stays with me for a long time. And the other is, which is written right there on my backdrop, that every future is born today. Means what we do today is something which decides what's the future going to be like. And yeah, for us, I think the future is pretty much clear. 2021 holds very interesting courses that we are going to launch, and you can stay updated on whatever specific courses that you might be interested in. There are courses right from a short 2-month program to a longer 6-month to 9 months courses, which both students and working professionals can enroll for, kind of to upskill them. And now through this discussion, you all must have realized that the kind of thought process and the kind of approach that we have taken to design the courses, means all these discussions are happening because somewhere or the other we all are part of that ecosystem, and all these insights that we shared today have been used as a input or as a building block in making some of these modules that you will be seeing in coming times. So thank you everybody for joining, and thank you Ayan sir, Ripul sir, Kiran sir, for your valuable time. And I think we had a good time. There was a fantastic discussion, and thanks to this online forums, otherwise this was not possible for us to kind of meet and spend such time on these discussions. So thank you once again for that, and we hope to see you in different roles and different kind of opportunities that we will be able to come up with in coming times. Thank you, everybody. Signing off, and stay connected, stay safe, and see you once again soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. I guess this was a wonderful session, and for someone like me who is just starting as a UX designer, this was a really insightful session. For
Thanks,
more
Aryan.
questions, do reach out to us on offline on LinkedIn. Special thanks to our guest speakers, innovators, Mr. Kiran Sabnis, Mr. Ayan Pal, Mr. Ripul Kumar, for the time and sharing value-added takeaways for the innovation journeys. This curated series will feature a variety of industry thought leaders who are now a part of the global MIT ID innovation ecosystem. We recognize the need to reach out to thousands of aspiring innovators and help them gain the skills and knowledge required for their dreams to become a reality. We encourage you to connect with us via our social channels. For those interested in becoming top-notch innovators, we invite you to explore our courses that will fast-track your career path. So log on to www.mitidinnovation.com to kickstart your innovation journey with the MIT ID Innovation. Let's learn, innovate, lead. Yours innovatively, Aryan Chen, signing off. To everyone, stay connected, stay safe, and keep innovating every day. Thanks you once again
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Thank you, Aryan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.